so we were fortunate as a group to work with a top-notch player and the greatest popular songwriter, certainly of that era. And we could expand on it, I'm sure, in our praises of Bob Dylan's work.
But when you were working with him, did you think that like 50 years later he'd be like Shakespeare in a sense? I mean, he's the poet laureate kind of person, or was he? What were you thinking being in the middle of it?
No, I don't think anybody. Well, first off, no one maintained his mythopoeic power. How's that? There is a philosopher, lecturer has used that term, mythopoeic power, where you don't know much about him. He's a mystery. He's a singer. He's here. He's gone. He's at the hall down the street, and then he's at Carnegie Hall next week. And so I don't think anybody had kept that mystery and that that spirit going as consistently as he did through the years. But there were others, you know. In here, you want me to try? I could try and compliment again. Compliment him.
Okay.
Do we have time? Are you worn out yet?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm actually not on deadline anymore. I got the story put off, so I got time. But it's up to you really. Yeah, I don't want to take all night because I know you got a flight to catch and stuff.
No, we're almost done, aren't we? But to compliment someone who has entertained the world, in my classes, in my history part of American music, I give I have now 5 important, well, maybe 6 important bands from 1928 to 1943 or 4, and that's McKinney's Cotton Pickers, Fletcher Henderson, and many others. But I don't try and emphasize listening and studying Duke Ellington. That's going to happen anyway. See, so I don't even mention his name, and put emphasis on the various styles and leaders and characters that were playing at the same time as Ellington was in his early glory.
Well, so do these?
So Dylan is much like that. I think if I was studying poets, of that era, say the village poets, I would say no, don't go to Dylan. Let's get down to it and study what was going on around him, the folks that he were friends with, that wrote well, that he heard from upper story window singing or on the radio, however they fit into his life. Well, let's think about them. And there's a great list of people. I mentioned 1 or 2 of them earlier.
But when you're saying you're studying the music, like from the 20s, do you think the stuff in the 70s stands up to that kind of study, or not?
Oh, sure. Yes. Yeah. Right now, 70s. Well, 70s, fine. Right now, I'm studying, transcribing, and talking with people who who play metal, probably you would call it jazz metal. Incredible ostinato. Now, maybe we shouldn't use that word. Incredible reiterated patterns. And so I work continuously on my left hand to have the same effect. I've always liked fuzz tone on guitar, or actually on combo organs. I used I had 3 or 4 fuzz tones. I think it has to do with my attention to the tenor saxophone. I love the tenor, see, and that has the air and the breath, and that's what, for me, fuzz tone or distortion, if used carefully, is an important feature. So, to the in the young musician's kit.
But fuzz tone can be a crutch for some people, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But they're those amazing players. I think, Tony Iommi, is that correct?
He's in Black Sabbath, right?
Yes, yes. I think he was on the front lines there. I think he was very influential during the early years with technical, masterful guitar fills and great sequences.
Well, Robbie Robertson was pretty good, wasn't he?
This is a different thing.
Yeah.
Entirely different thing. You'll hear snatches of reiterated patterns here and there, but no, I'm talking about where the guitar player comes in and his grip does not cease until the last note. Reiterated patterns, and it's much like, it doesn't sound like it, but boogie woogie, there is a pattern going on all the way through the song. Little breaks, sure, but so I played boogie since I was a kid.
Well, why are these patterns fascinating? Why are they better than the alternative?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Why do these patterns, these reiterative patterns, hold so much interest?
Oh well, you find them in classical music, and of course if you begin to look for them, there are little patterns, 3-4 note patterns with the variations, and then there's Fats Waller, who was a master at little patterns that were repeated and started right and ended right, so how to say, listen for that, listen for, follow the logic of the notes. And Bach too, and Bach and Buxtehude and all that, a lot of what came before, and certainly everything that came after Bach. And I have to mention Buxtehude, a very important composer from the classic period, the classical period, from Denmark.
So is music like math then to you? Or
Oh, yes, in a way, yeah. It's how are we modest concerned that we make it brief and get down to the subject about kids and the benefits,
Oh, well, no, I was just trying to figure out, get some, I don't know, just, what's she saying?
She's doing her job. Yeah, she's heard me go on and on about some of this before.
Well, maybe just tell me what keeps you interested, what keeps you performing, what's your driving force these days?
keeps me interested.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention one thing too. That was, there has to be a little hook, a little story that goes along with composers. Well, Bach had heard of Buxtehude, and he walked 200 miles from Germany to Denmark. 200 miles when he was a young man. That's Johann Sebastian Bach walked that far to hear Buxtehude play. And it's Buxtehude, Buxtehude, I think. 200 miles. Now that's to think of how far is it from Woodstock to New York City. Well, that's a good start, I guess.
It's halfway.
Pardon me?
It's 100 miles to New York City from Woodstock, so that's halfway.
Wow. Yeah, and think of what they wore on their feet back in those days. What are we doing? We're reaching out and apprehending little snippets from here and there, little melodies, putting them together. We're all composers. We're all songwriters. We're listening to Obama, and we're saying those are golden words. Where he's talking about family and honor and dignity and nobility amongst the American people, and his voice rings. Well, if you're a musician and you're at that certain age where you allow yourself, or you are aware that one of your talents is transcribing or writing down what you hear. I think Mozart had that about age 4 or 5, but some of us have to work at that, and that's a lifelong pursuit, Hearing a melody, writing it down. Hearing a melody, and if you don't have a napkin, then remember it. Because so you do hear little things that you say, that could further define my style. That would be nice if I could do that. So you call up the DJ and you say, hi, I want to know what that song was you were playing last Friday at 9:55 p.m. and why don't you announce the tunes after they've been played? But then you go and buy the CD or the recording and search it out. A bunch of business to do to apprehend that specimen.
Okay,
right?
so it sounds like it sounds like Maud wants us to wrap up here. I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful town.
Well, wait a minute. Can you gather like 3 or 4 real estate brokers' cards for me when we meet? Just kidding.
I'd be happy to.
But Rick Dangle used to say that.
Okay.
My old friend. He'd say, "Are there any brokers in the house tonight? I'm going to move to this town," and that was funny. He's a wonderful soul, Rick Dangle.
Yeah, I saw him play a couple of times. I actually saw the band probably 6 or 7 times during the. But
wow, I'd like to talk more about them, or about the songs that we heard there, that you heard as a young person that impressed you. But I got to let you go, and so thanks, Charlie. We're on the case, I think, and we can continue this a little bit and fill it out, but I think we covered